In this video, I'm going to be talking about the South Node in Leo and the North Node in Aquarius in the natal birth chart. If you want more information about the South Node and North Node, you can check out my extended video on the lunar nodes to find that information out. And it should be floating around here somewhere up. There's a link in this video. And in the description of the video, for you to find the video on the lunar nodes if you want to understand more about what those are about. But basically, the South Node is your talents, your gifts, what you're used to in a previous lifetime, your comfort zone, what you're familiar with, an area that you're really wise in and that you have come to master from previous lifetimes, or just what you come in with, but certain patterns and certain ways of approaching your life, and just certain ways of being and certain traits of the South Node sign, because it can indicate the shadow, can bring up the shadows of whatever sign it's in, can hold you back, can limit you from transcending and being the best version of yourself in this lifetime, because you were meant to evolve in this lifetime, and you were meant to step away from what you're innately familiar with and comfortable with in order to expand, in order to grow. And when you stay in what you're familiar with, there's the sense of, okay, this is easy, so this feels right. This is so incredibly natural, so it feels right, but then it never really feels enough, and your soul is saying, go to a different direction, try something else, in order to find that joy and that contentment, in order to feel happy in your life. And so that's, the North Node point is you're naturally going to want to go toward that if you listen to that call of your soul. And it's very the North Node is it's very powerful. It can generate power as you want to go toward this, and you can do that by using the gifts of the South Node to move towards that North Node. It is a balance. You're balancing the seesaw out, and integrating both the South and North nodes. So the nodes are points. They are not planets. They are based around the ecliptic of the moon. There's a whole, geometry about that. I don't want to get into that, because if I do, I may say something that's wrong or inaccurate or vague or not specific. And it's pretty technical. Astronomy, things are, fields that are technical include astronomy, history, those kind of things, which I have to be honest, I'm not as interested in those topics as I am what I can freely talk about on my own insights, knowledge, and wisdom to. Like astrology, like spirituality, and all these kind of things, if I have to be honest. That may be different and I may feel differently. But anyway, I don't want to say anything that is not exact, because you have to be exact with the astronomy, but that is just the idea. So the two poles, the nodes, also affect the eclipses when the moon is close to either the South Node or North Node, close enough, 15 degrees close to the South and North Node, I would say, then that would be the right conditions for an eclipse to happen. And there's all that information on eclipses that you can find out about. But anyway, delving into this placement, if you have this placement, this is an interesting one. And I may be very blunt in what I say in this video, and I may be very direct. Some of the things I may say you may not want to hear. Don't take everything I say as the only truth, though. You can, take it with a grain of salt. This is the research I have done. This is the knowledge and insights that I have to give about this placement. This is all I have to say, and I really want to say everything that I want to in this video, but this is one interpretation of it. There are multiple sources, so so this is not the only sort of track that you're running down. There's other paths, there's other sources that you can go to find out about this placement, but hopefully you find this video very informative, in-depth, and very valuable to you. Now, with all that being said, this is a very interesting one, and a very profound one at that, because and if you're watching this on the date in June of 2023, what is going to be happening in 2020, I'd say 2026 through 28, there's going to be a time when Pluto and the North Node are going to be conjunct. And this is a huge placement and a huge transit of the South Node in Leo, North Node in Aquarius, because that Pluto conjunct that North Node is going to be a real chance for transformation, for rebirth, for really stepping into your purpose, soul purpose, individually if you have this placement, and also collectively, especially for those who have this placement individually. You're letting go of the old patterns and ways of being that don't serve you, and you're moving into something new, much more happy, much more rewarding in your life. So, destroying the old, transformation, and you can gain a real sense of power from when you have Pluto transits in your natal chart, when Pluto conjuncts a planet, or squares or opposes a planet, especially those harder aspects in astrology, really stimulate the growth because of that discomfort there, which can stimulate a lot of growth in your life because of that work to do. When you have Pluto going over a planet and making a hard aspect, such as a square or opposition, or in your natal chart, if you have Pluto squaring any planet or luminary, that means that there's hard work to be done in this area of life. And it's about you stepping up to the plate and doing that work and releasing what no longer serves you, willing to transform, willing to let go, take risks, face the unknown, face your fears. That's going to be a huge and intense transit with there. And really, once we do the transforming work, we find a greater sense of personal power from it. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. So let's talk about why you're watching this video, which is probably to find out what the South Node in Leo, North Node in Aquarius placement means in your natal birth chart, or if you know somebody in your life who has this placement, or you know of someone in general who has this placement, or if you're just curious to learn about it. So let's get into this. With your South Node in Leo, there is this sense of you coming in from past lives, if you want to take that belief of it, if you want to take that perspective of it, because Leo, Aquarius are two very different signs. Leo is about you embracing your individuality and being the center of attention and expressing yourself, and it's all about you. It's the you show. But Aquarius is the we show. It's the collective show. It's the community show. So you can take that me and flip it around to make a W, and that would be Aquarius. So benefiting the community. So that's Leo is more individual, and Aquarius is more collective. So Leo, there's a sense of feeling the need, feeling the desire feeling like you need the kind of security, and you feel like you need to live a life that is rich and lavish. Um, and there is this rich, very lavish, luxurious, important, special, glamorous, exciting um, sort of appearance that the people with displacement give out. An air of authority, an air of being somebody who is very important and high, in a high status. Um, and and so with this placement, you can be very attached to people seeing you in these kind of ways, in these very glamorous, important, official, um, very huge and very, up in the charts kind of way. Um, so, materialistic, attracted to nice things, wanting the best life, wanting, the things that you want, wanting to live the life that you want, people giving you what you want, doing what you want. You can see where I'm going with this. More to come later, though. But, there is this sense of coming in with the South Node in Leo, that you're so used to getting all the attention, where you want the spotlight on you. You are very familiar on a soul level of what it feels like to be adored, to be loved for exactly who you are, and to have all the world revolving around you, all the, people from all corners of the world coming to you and looking at you, watching you as you express yourself, and acknowledging and really putting their lives aside for you. And you're very used to, I was watching, there's an astrologer who is an absolute expert on the lunar nodes. There's somebody who's very knowledgeable about them, Mark Lawrenson, I believe his name is, from Sydney Astrology School. He has videos on the lunar nodes, on the south node through the signs placement, and his approach in talking about the south nodes and the north nodes is one of compassion, understanding, of one of integration and healing the south node wounds and sort of trauma and pain and shadow material, dark material that you may come in with in this lifetime. So you're very used to that center of attention, really, living, that sort of high life. It could be something that I think about with Leo is a kingly or queenly energy of sitting on your throne with all the jewels of people, adoring you. Mark Lawrenson was describing South Node and Leo as a celebrity of the cameras capturing your attention, posing for the camera, smiling, where your life was based around what others thought of you and entertaining the crowd and being adored and living the high life and having lavish things, material things, and yeah, that's really what it was all about. So being very used to getting the attention, um, and needing that attention, needing other people to validate you, other people to, acknowledge your worth when it comes to your expression of who you are, instead of you, marching to the beat of your own drum and being uniquely yourself and validating yourself with that sense of self-worth about your creative talents and who you are and your your heart and your feelings and what you want to give to the world. Um, but so, yeah. And with the North Node and Aquarius is using that talent to serve the world, to serve others out there. And others is going to be a very important word and theme with displacement. And I also want to say something. Do not confuse and dilute the North Node in Scorpio placement. You can't talk about the North Node in Scorpio without getting deep and getting very spiritual. If you abandon the spiritual aspects of the North Node in Scorpio, then it would be very similar to talking about the North Node in Aquarius. And there was a video that I was watching about the North Node in Scorpio, and the big focus was about others and allowing others in to help you, being open to others, people giving you things, advice, gifts, help, service, whatever it is. And that was bypassing and not acknowledging the spiritual, deep, and complex aspects of the North Node in Scorpio. So you really have to look at it from all of those sides, and I just want to say that. But there is a mild similarity of the North Node in Scorpio themes to the North Node in Aquarius, but those are very different placements. And I've heard a couple interpretations of the North Node in Scorpio, and it seems to confuse it a little bit with the North Node in Aquarius. So yeah, they're very different placements, and I just want to say that, and let that off my chest here. So, yeah, needing that validation. So king or queen, all the jewels. You're very attracted to nice things and jewels, and sitting up on your throne and having people give you things that you wanted, living the best life, and you feel like you deserve to have people give you the best life. There may be a feeling like, and I don't want to make a false assumption, but at a low and extreme level, that people are just orbiting around you and giving you what you want, giving you the attention, and yeah. And so that is kind of the mindset that you come in with in this lifetime, and that needs to be something that you need to let go of. So, a royal, there's this royal sort of feeling, treated like a royal, treated like a king or a queen or someone in, high status, as I said before, a VIP, a very important person, thinking very highly of yourself, because you are somebody who really, naturally thinks very highly of yourself. And it's not a bad thing, but where it can be that way is when it gets into vainness, where you're, think that you are, the best, more superior, more entitled than other people, that you deserve to have this, you deserve to have, you want, you deserve to have what you want, you deserve to have, to go after what you want, etc., etc. And there is, and at the extreme, it can be, narcissism, although I don't want to assume that for this placement. But there's this constant need for the attention, the validation, which, if you keep going at it and keep sort of feeding this endless monster that needs this validation, it's just not going to ever be enough. The South Node looks at where you keep doing something and you keep putting energy into this, but it's just not enough. It is just not enough. And so that's where, okay, well, if you keep doing what you're doing, it's not working, do something different. Integrate your North Node. All right, so another aspect of Leo is creative expression. Again, going back to having a very high sense of creative expression. You can probably find many outlets to express yourself, and you may have a lot of creative gifts and creative talents. Very warm, very connected to the heart, loving to express your emotions, drama, being real, being authentic, and making a big show, and expressing your heart from the inspiration that you feel. All of these are positive things, and this energy very well, and you're very familiar with it. And so these are all wonderful things, very generous, very emotional, very passionate when it comes to the heart. There is a pride and self-confidence that comes in with the South Node in Leo that you feel about yourself. So pride and self-confidence, and self-love, which is sort of interesting to tie it in here, but self-love, but where can it be unhealthy self-expression and healthy selfishness? And there's a major difference between self-love and being negatively selfish. And that's what we're going to talk about here. So Leo is also a fixed sign. So the sun's in Leo from July 22nd through August 22nd. So that sort of holds down the fort of the summer. It is about will. Fixed signs are so determined, they are so willing and so passionate, and they will do whatever it takes. And they're so committed, and there's a stubbornness where they latch on to something that they want to achieve, and there is no stopping them from attaining what they want, to achieving whatever goal that they want to achieve. And so Leo is one of those signs that has a very strong willpower, force. And so, sort of these kind of tendencies, not, thinking of others, the collective, the people around you, not acknowledging those people, is where you can self-sabotage and, get in the way of evolving and, and integrating the North Node. And you also can't, force things down upon others and expect others to do what you want and to change how you want to. That's another part of this. Now, with the North Node in Aquarius, it bounces back to that South Node in Leo, where any humanitarian activity that you can engage in this life, it is about taking the focus out of yourself, your mind, your life, your relationships, and putting it on other people, putting it on the collective, putting it on your community, your clan, your soul tribe. So really finding your tribe, finding people that you can connect with, that you can engage with on an intellectual level, that you can bounce ideas off of, is very important. It's really taking the focus off of yourself here. The humanitarian activities in this lifetime that you can engage in are going to bring you that sense of, yes, I'm heading in the right direction. Giving, charity, doing something for the greater good, sacrificing in a healthy way, being very selfless, serving the good of the people, the good of the group, the good of humanity, doing anything that is related to this is very healthy for this placement. This also relates to working with the people, working with people, engaging them with, being with them to be in a group and do, the group work kind of thing. And so on sort of a life basis, ask yourself, is what I am doing for the highest good of all, for the highest good of my family, for the highest good of society, for the highest good of the world? That is huge for this placement. What is for the highest good of all? And it's about doing that, stepping away from the ego, stepping away from the pride, and what you necessarily want. If you're doing something and you feel drained because you're not finding that fulfillment, it's about, no, What can I do? How can I use my gifts for the highest good of all? So, another part of this is healthy detachment. It is, because Leo is very emotional. The heart is, very feeling, and it can get caught up in the drama and the heavy displays of emotion and, all those kind of things where, Leo just latches onto the small. This is what's going on in the nitty gritty reality. This is, what I feel. All these kind of things. But Aquarius looks at it from a higher perspective. So really gaining perspective to certain issues and challenges that come up in your life, to certain matters and relationships and activities and situations that come up is super important. So strengthening that mental healthy detachment that you can bring to situations, that logical thinking, which sees things as they are, the reality. And from that reality, you can make informed decisions to improve the future, to better your lives and the people and the lives of the people around you. So, seeing something, balancing out, your intuition as opposed to your ego, looking to the logical mind for answers as well. Um, and yeah, this is balancing the head, the mental realms that tells you, okay, this is logical, this is reasonable. I'm using my best judgment here. I'm seeing things objectively, intellectually, scientifically, in a very realistic way. And also, what is my heart telling me? Where is my heart telling me to go? What am I feeling? What do I want for myself? How do I want to feel and express myself? So it is a balance. So this also deals with sharing the spotlight. So including others in your life and what you want to express. And yeah, not being so, domineering, controlling, stubborn. It's all about me. It's all about me. No, that's not, your destiny line in this life. So sharing the spotlight. Um, and so this also relates to a sense of freedom that comes in where you can be yourself, you can express yourself, you can do all these things without it being, oh, what do others think of me? And, I want approval from others. I want to be, the best version. I want to be better than other people. Oh, I want to show, always need to show people your gifts and talents. And all those kind of things. But North Node in Aquarius, and sort of, there's something to limitation where you are giving people what they want to see, what they want to see, what they want to hear, instead of doing what you uniquely want, while stepping away from that ego needing to be fueled and needing to be fed, with getting that external approval from others. So surrendering that need for your ego to be stroked is so incredibly vital, where there is this freedom where I don't have to, it doesn't have to be what others, think of me. And so, yeah, that's sort of, the trap that you can get into at this. But the North Node in Aquarius is about being your unique self, and stepping away from the differences or the separations or the things that make people different about them that are less than you. Um, so that's another part of this, where you are embracing, seeing everyone is equal to you. Everyone is special, therefore no one is special. We are all in this together. Aquarius is a humanitarian sign, and it deals with the collective. It deals with seeing everyone's unique talents, abilities, gifts, quirks as perks, seeing the differences and embracing all those differences. It's not about, oh, what is your status, your reputation? What is this person's, background? What are their expertise? What right do they have to be, speaking to me? What, premises do they have? All these kind of things where certain conditions, certain sort, procedures that people need to do on a checkout line when they're going into the airport or to a, place or a hotel meeting you, metaphorically speaking, all these boxes that need to be checked off of all these kind of things where you feel like, oh, people need to be at your level to be able to speak to you, and people need to be like you and please you and all these kind of things like that. And if you've ever seen Keeping Up Appearances, which is a British comedy on PBS that I have watched countless times, over and over throughout the years I've revisited that show, Hyacinth Bouquet, Bucket, Bouquet, is played by Patricia Routledge, who is an Aquarius, by the way, but she is a great actress, and that is an extreme, very exaggerated, very animated version of the South Node in Leo, wanting the best things, demanding so much of others at the expense of other people, always making it about you, being very vain, and all this kind of things like that. So seeing people, not as below you, but as equal to you, being willing to get to know them, to step down from that throne and really get to know them, on an intellectual level, understand them, where they're coming from, their perspective, engage with them. And these could be people that are non-conventional, very different than you. So the more different and quirky and other than you that it can be, it is going to be better for you as an evolving spiritual being. So that's something to this as well, where just try this, just permission to try this. Who cares about who's gonna see me do this? It doesn't matter. So yeah, embracing what is non, I want to say unorthodox, what is unique to other people, what is different in terms of their backgrounds, in terms of what they enjoy, their experiences. Yeah, so that's something to this. So yeah, putting the focus off of yourself with this is going to be huge. And then how can you give to your community, to those around you? Also, and knowing that we are all one in humanity. And so a story that I associate with displacement is Mulan. And this is the animation that I was seeing, is how Mulan stepped in to play her father's role when it came to fighting an army, and the father was very old. He was older, and he would not make it on the battlefield. And the father knew that, Mulan knew that, and deep down inside, she wanted to do something of honor, of selfless sacrifice, and honor, of wanting to give to the group, of wanting to do her part for the greater good. Because that is really a huge part of, because we're all here to be of service in some way or another. So doing things that can be of service to, the group, or those kind of things, is important here. But she was, filling in for her father, because she cared about her father and did not want him to get hurt. So she, cut her hair off. She, dressed in certain clothes, pretended to be a man that is pretending to be someone other than yourself. And I'm not saying faking it. I'm not saying be anything different than yourself. It's just releasing the shadow sides of you and it being all about you. So that's what this is about. So, um, yeah. So, more the collective, things that you can do for the collective. Yeah. So, and letting go of things being your way on your terms. And sort of demanding so much of others, and thinking that you know all and that you're right and they're wrong. That kind of sense. Teamwork makes the dream work. Um, yeah. So that is, really what this comes down to. And the other thing that I want to say is, um, just that connection. Any activity that you can do where you can connect with others and share pleasure, fun, all these kind of things. That the energy of sharing is going to be very important here, with this placement. Um, and so, yeah. And that is the North Node in Aquarius, South Node in Leo, placement in the natal birth chart. I really hope that you enjoyed. And bye, everyone.